How should you approach a back injury disability case in 2020? Hi, I'm Jonathan Ginsberg. I'm a Social Security disability attorney. And over the years, I've noticed some changes in Social Security about how they review, how judges review back injury cases. And I want to tell you what's working for me in 2020 and beyond. First of all, I want to tell you there are a couple of different things to think of when you're dealing with back injury cases. One is that there are potentially three theories of disability you can use. Obviously, if you can meet a listing, and this is listing one, that is the fastest and the easiest way to get approved. It's difficult to meet a listing, and that's intentional by Social Security. The listings basically say that we're going to assume that if you have this level of impairment, such as an amputated limb or multiple herniated disc where you cannot walk, that you would be disabled. And if you've got a specific diagnosis and some evidence of a significant functional limitation, you win typically very quickly. But because back injury cases are such a common source of claims for disability, it's very difficult to meet the listing. But I think that's the place you should start. Look at listing one to see whether or not you meet that listing. Do your medical records support a listing level argument? The second argument you can use is the grid rules. And right now the grid rules apply when you're age 50 or over and you have, again, a physical limitation, and mostly they apply if you have a limited education and past work doing kind of manual labor. That's really what the grid rules are designed to do. They recognize that a person with a limited education, limited work experience, who's over age 50 is going to have a very difficult time finding work, entry-level, unskilled type of work. That's what the grid rules are designed. So if you have more than a basic education, more than a high school education, or if you've got significant work skills from the work you've done or education you've got, then the grid rules may not apply. But again, worth looking at them. Go to gridrules.net and you can learn more about that. And the third and most common way to win a back injury case is using a functional capacity argument. And basically what this means is you're saying to Social Security, let's look at everything about my back injury case, my musculoskeletal injury. Again, it could be back, it could be shoulder, it could be knees, anything having to do with the musculoskeletal system. Let's look at that. Let's look at the impairments I've got. Let's look at medication side effects, the effect of treatment. And when you look at it all together, we're going to conclude that your capacity to perform simple entry-level work has been so reduced you would not be reliable. You'd miss too much time from work. You wouldn't be a reliable employee. So what has changed? Well, I think that obviously the one constant in Social Security is that it's becoming more difficult. Social Security is insisting on more evidence, stronger evidence, especially if you're younger, to prove disability. No longer can you go into court and basically say, Your Honor, look at me, I'm a believable person, I've got significant problems, but the last MRI I had was from 15 years ago, 10 years ago, accept that. That's just not going to work anymore. You need to have more current evidence. And one of the things that I've noticed that's sort of been tweaked over the years is the first part of listing one. And then realize we're not talking about the listings, but I still think it's important to look at the listings. That'll give you an idea as to what Social Security is looking at. And when you look at the listing one and you go to metalisting.com, you can get the link to listing one there. That's one of my websites about the listings. But you'll see at the beginning of listing one, there are 17 subsections. It's done by alphabet. 17 subsections about what Social Security is looking for when evaluating a back injury case. And this would be both for listings as well as a functional capacity argument. And if you look at this preface, let's call it, to the listing, you'll see that a lot of focus is on loss of function of the body part, inability to walk effectively, inability to use your hands for gross and fine motor manipulation. Those are the things that Social Security is concerned about. For example, with the walking part, would you be able to use public transportation to get to a job? Would you be able to go shopping or go to the bank? Would you be able to drive? These are all things that are sort of basic activities of daily living, but that's what type of impairment Social Security is looking at. When you're talking about not being able to use your hands or your legs for that matter, do you have trouble with hygiene? Do you have trouble getting dressed or bathing? Things like that. All this stuff is very functional, and I think if you look at this and you look at the big picture here, what Social Security is asking us in listing 1, and I think this applies in a functional capacity argument as well, is do you have a significant loss of function? Notice this is not really talking about pain. This is not really talking about mild discomfort. This is talking about functioning, walking, standing, crouching, crawling, stooping, using your hands for grasping, for fine motor manipulation, for typing. These are all functional activities. So when I'm making an argument in a back injury or an orthopedic case, I'm really focusing a lot on functioning because that's what Social Security is really focused on. And the second thing you'll notice when you look at this preface is they put a lot of emphasis on objective evidence. They want to see an MRI, a CT, nerve conduction studies. They don't want to see x-rays, which don't really tell us that much. They don't want to see chiropractic records. They want to see MRI, CT. They want to see that something significant is going on that can be imaged. And that's what you're really going to need. And there's another interesting point also in the and I don't remember what section of the preface it's there, but it talks about what happens if you don't have the money for a current MRI or CT. And essentially what Social Security says is you're kind of out of luck, that you're not going to meet a listing without a current record, and that's sort of sending a signal to judges when they're doing a functional capacity evaluation that they're not going to approve you if you don't have a recent imaging study. So I'm looking at these cases, and if I don't see an MRI within the last 1 or 2 years, that's going to be a much more difficult road, because there's an assumption in this preface to listing, that with treatment or with time, your back injury, your orthopedic problems are going to get better. I don't know if I believe that, but that's what Social Security is telling us. So if you go into a hearing and you haven't had an MRI for 5 or 6 or 7 years, it's going to be an uphill battle. So you really need to have ongoing treatment, you need to have current imaging, and you need to have evidence of a loss of function of your extremity, your limb or your back, that affects your walking, affects your use of your arms. That's what tends to be working in 2020. So the whole issue of pain, while I think it's relevant, that to me is more secondary to loss of function. So if you ask me what's working for back injury, for orthopedic injury cases in 2020, I would tell you it's a real focus on loss of function, problems walking, problems using the hands, both hands, and it can't just be one hand, and a need for imaging studies like MRIs and CTs. That's kind of the recipe you need. If you don't have that, then it's going to be a real uphill battle. So that to me is what's working in 2020. I suspect that trend is going to continue. If you have any questions or comments, let me know what you think. If you had a different result, or if you had other issues with orthopedic problems, please leave me a comment in the YouTube channel or on the Facebook page. Happy to engage in discussion with you, and visit my website at ssdanswers.com. You can download my Secrets to Winning Disability Survival Kit, or ask for a free case evaluation. Happy to give that to you as well. So for now, this is Jonathan Ginsberg, wishing you the best. Thanks a lot. Hi, this is Jonathan Ginsberg, and I hope you found this video helpful. If you'd like to know more about how to win your Social Security disability case, I'd like to invite you to download my Secrets to Getting Approved Early Survival Kit that I created just for people like you. Currently, I'm making the survival kit available at no cost, and I encourage you to grab your copy now. Some of the topics I cover include: how do I know if I have a case? Is it the right time for me to file my claim? 9 common mistakes that can doom your case. The 3 must-have arguments you use to win your case. And a topic that every disability claimant wants to know: how to avoid trick questions from the judge. If you or a loved one need to win Social Security disability benefits, you'll find the Survival Kit essential reading. Download your Survival Kit right now and at no cost. Just visit ssdanswers.com/survival and sign up. It's that easy. Please act now. And as always, I wish you the best.